Well, it's been a little while since we've had a video out because I've been away. I've been down in that there London doing a bit of work for the past week or so, so I've not been here to get on with things and get some videos done. But alas, we are back. We are down at the bottom of the garden and we've got some potatoes to harvest. And I've got 3 different buckets hiding down here, so they're all in the buckets, but they're 3 very different things and very different ones. So one of the buckets, Maris Pipers, just bog standard, in they've gone, a few sweet potatoes, set them up as normal, Maris Pipers, see how they get on. Bit of a competition between the Maris Pipers and the King Edwards, so we've got a bucket of King Edwards as well, you know, full-size seed potatoes, in they've gone, being grown away. But the third bucket, a little bit of an experiment there. So we halved a seed potato, one of the King Edward seed potatoes, halved it in, just 1/2 of a seed potato, in it went, and it's had a bucket all to itself because we want to try and grow really big sort of bacon jacket potato sort of size ones. I think that was the sort of aim for doing that, for putting the half potato in. Whether it's worked or not, I really don't know. These seed potatoes, these buckets here, right, I've left them pretty much to their own devices. I've done nothing with them all year. So they got set up a while ago with the usual way, bit of compost, bit of potato fertiliser, bit of bloodfish and bones, seed potatoes in, lay them up, and they've just been left to their own devices. One of them, the one with the half seed potatoes in actually, as well as another couple of buckets, I'm just going to do the 3 here on camera, has been up at the allotment, and the other 2, the one with the Maris Piper and the one with the normal King Edwards, have just been down here in the bottom of the garden, and I'm a little bit worried about them, to be honest. I don't think they'll have done very well. Be interested to tip them out to see how they've got on. It's not the sunniest spot down here, and I've been coming down, like, probably for the last month, right, regularly coming down here in the night time and disposing of all the slugs and snails out of the greenhouse and around and about and whatever. And I've noticed that the potatoes have had loads of snails on them. Not a lot of slugs, but loads of snails. So the snails have been going for the potatoes. So whether that's had an impact or not, I don't know. But there's only one way to find out, isn't there? So if you bear with me for just a moment, I'll get it all set up out here. We'll tip some buckets out and we'll see whether the potatoes are any good or not. Now, rather helpfully, on the 3 buckets we've got here, I can see perfectly well which are the 2 King Edwards because they've got they've got labels on them that haven't worn off. But this label here is entirely blank. There's nothing on it, so I can only assume that I'm picking the right bucket here for the Maris Pipers. But we'll see when we tip it out what we've actually got in the bucket, and it's a little bit claggy, a little bit wet in the bottom there, which is why it was sort of sticking, and this looks entirely altogether awful. You know, I said this wasn't going to be very good. Let me just grab my tub here. You can see the little potatoes coming out. I mean, they're nice, they're clean, they're looking all right, but they're teeny weeny tiny little things are much more of what you would expect to be a new potato, like a first early or a second early, and there's really not very many of them. There's maybe only a dozen or so far. Let me just move that over there. You can see that there and have a good laugh at it. There's a few more starting to appear. Let me just move some of this compost back into the bucket there to make it easier. And it's one of those things, you know, that if you didn't laugh, you would cry, wouldn't you? You'd get a bit annoyed with it. But it just shows you that sometimes, oh no, that's a leaf. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. I mean, to be honest, the first and second earlies that we've had this year were absolutely belted. They were brilliant. We had loads of them and they were good size, quality, clean potatoes. But alas, look at this. Look at the Maris Pipers. I mean, how poor does that? That's rubbish. Not going to get much of a Christmas dinner from them, are we? We're certainly not going to get a baked potato or jacket potato from them. I mean, not to worry. There's still some eating in there. A tiny little bit of eating. And let me just through sheer hope, let me have another search through this big pile of compost to see if we can find out if there's any more. And alas, there is none, there is 0. So Maris Piper, bit of a thumbs down in terms of quality looks all right. They look like clean potatoes. I've not washed them, but off them or anything yet. They look all right, but you know, some you win, some you lose. Let me get this tidied up and we'll get them with King Edwards and hopefully have some better results. So a little bit of a disappointing result from the Maris Pipers. Let's have another look there just to appreciate them all in their full glory there in the tub. Now I guess this is the interesting one for me, the King Edwards, because we've got the bucket here on the right. It's just got the half seed potato in, and we've got the full seed potatoes here. This one on the left, and let's tip this one out. I mean, again, based on what we've just seen with the Maris Pipers, I'm not entirely confident of what's going to be in here, whether they're going to be any better. What I have noticed is certainly there's a lot more in terms of roots at the bottom of this one. That one, the Maris Pipers, was very wet. This is a lot drier, and there is signs of life, albeit a little bit on the small side still. But let me start getting in about there, and it's looking very, very samey as the Maris Pipers. So our final hope might actually be on the half seed potato, that one single half seed potato that was in that other bucket. And again, we'll come to that just in a couple of minutes. But all these potatoes I'm pulling out of here are tiny little tiddlers. It's like I've grown main crop first early somehow. But this, thinking about it, this is the first year I've done all the potatoes. Looking to sort of see them there. They're about the biggest sort of size ones we're getting. It's the first year I've done or decided to do all the potatoes in the buckets. So in past years I've done first and seconds in the buckets, and I've always had a patch of ground and grown the main crop potatoes in a very sort of traditional way, how you'd sort of trench the ground and put the potatoes in and earth them up and do them that sort of way. And they've always come out pretty good. They've always come out smashing. But you know what? It is hard work doing it that way, and doing it in the buckets is so much easier. But looking at this, I would say the hard work turns out it might just be worth it, unless the good old half a seed potato turns up some pretty special results. And like I say, we'll check on that in just a minute. It's always important. I like to get rid of all the tiny little tiddlers in here as well, because if we leave any little ones in like that, if I leave them in the compost, they're just going to sprout and start growing again next year when the temperature starts to heat up. So I think, and there we go, look at that tiny, let's get them all in. So this is the full size King Edwards, and again at the end I'll show you all these lined up next to each other so you can probably see them a little bit better than you can see them now. Similar to the Maris Piper, there's definitely more of these, but again, tiny little tiddler potatoes for main crops. Right, get this tidied up, come back and we'll get the other ones tipped out. Please let there be something half decent in there. And alas, here we are, the final hope, the great hope that we might actually have some decent sized potatoes that we can use to do something with. But let's see. We've got a good root system at the bottom. I'm not seeing any potatoes, any big chunky potatoes poking out the sides of the compost. Then again, we've got a little bit of life here, We'll see. Let me just dig in a bit more and see what we've got. We've got our biggest potato. Yeah, I'd be pushing it to say it was a baking potato size, but look at this. I tell you what they'll do. They'll do brilliant roasties, right? I love doing roasties. I've got a way of doing them in the goose fat, and it takes ages to do them. But is it worth it? They turn out absolutely beautifully. So we've got a couple. I'm not seeing many more. Don't say we're going to get size and no volume in the last bit. We could do with another couple of those big potatoes. But I don't think we're going to get them. Come on, please. And the last little bits of compost. Let's get through it. No, I think that is it. Well, what what can we say about that? Here we go. Look at this. Here's the half seed potato experiment, and again, I mean, look at that. That's 3 good sized potatoes and 3 tiny little potatoes. So we've got the size there, but we haven't got the volume. You know, a couple of years ago when I took part in Steve Digwell's single seed potato challenge, and I did the seed potatoes in the buckets and stuff and faffed about, we got some massive seed potatoes, massive potatoes from there. But this time it just hasn't quite worked out. Anyway, let me get a shot of this, come back, we'll have a proper look at what's going on here and just have a wee chat about a couple of things. So, some you win and some you very much lose, but hey, it's just one of those things in life, and it's not all a loss. We've learned actually quite a lot from doing these sorts of experiments, and hopefully one of the reasons for doing these experiments on the channel is that you guys can see what I'm doing and not make the same mistakes that I've made. So a couple of things to show you. Let me show you these. These are the really rather sad Maris Pipers. I mean, they are sort of new potato size. Maybe we've got a new style of potato there. We've got the first early main crops, and they're just a bit sad and pathetic. I might get some decent roasties out of them. Maybe's not. Now here's the experiment we did with the King Edwards. I think this is the one where it was the half seed potato, and you can see there we've got 3 reasonable sized potatoes. I wouldn't call them bacon potatoes, jacket potatoes by any stretch of the imagination. They're a bit small still, and then we've got loads of little tiddlers from the full size King Edward seed potatoes that we put in. Quite a decent quantity, but again, little tiddlers. We might get some roasties out of them. We're certainly not going to get baked potatoes out of them. But anyway, one of those things. So what have we learned? One, if I'm going to do main crops in the buckets, I need to do a lot more work. This sort of just put it in and watch it go kind of thing clearly hasn't worked out. I've not given them much love and attention. For whatever reason, throughout the year, they've just been left to their own devices and haven't done much. I might do them in the ground next year. Obviously in the ground I can get more nutrition in. There's much more room for them to grow. We can space them out properly, get them grown. So next year I think first and second earlies in the buckets, main crops in the ground. Although I'm saying that now, when next year comes around, we might do some more experiments, we might do some different things, we might try and get more main crops. Like I say, Steve Digwell does the single seed potato challenge, and he really can get some massive seed potatoes, I keep calling them seed potatoes, massive potatoes once they've grown out of a bucket. We did that a couple of years ago. There was a whole lot of work involved, a whole lot of stuff done with it to get them to that stage, but possibly we might just do that again, but we'll see. Anyway, there's results, there's experiments. I will always show you what's and all. It would have been very easy for me to tip these out, film this and go, that's a bit rubbish, I'm not going to show you that. Everyone's going to think I'm a rubbish gardener, but not everything works. Not everything goes according to plan. And I will always show you the good, the bad, and the tiny potatoes. Anyway, that's me done for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now, folks.